Hey, you're listening to Fat and Greasy Citizens, a podcast about Shakespeare. I'm Fat.
And I'm Greasy. Every week we do a deep dive into every act of every Shakespeare play ever written, mostly while drinking.
More specifically, I'm Chuck. I'm a former English major and now a digital editor who cares a lot about Shakespeare.
And I'm Gabe. Let's do it!
Who got that riz? The Virgin Queen, it's your girl Queen Liz! Oh, my knuckleheads, we welcome you to Fat and Greasy Citizens. In this episode, The Merchant of Venice, Act 2, in which Shylock, the titular merchant of the titular Venice, is betrayed by his servant Lancelot, who wants to leave his employ, and his daughter, who wants to marry a chap called Lorenzo and doesn't want to be Jewish anymore. Anyway, they both leave and rob Shylock while they do it. Meanwhile, Portia is being super racist in her palace, fending off potential suitors with her father's dumb casket game. And who should show up? Her true love, Bassanio, who would really like to slip his corpse in her casket, if you catch my meaning. Do you get it? Do we get it? Enjoy.
Poof.
Act 2.
Great Scott.
Merchant of Venice. Let me open my
Race, religion. Like right off the bat, Prince of Morocco comes in, and the first thing he says is, "Don't hate me because I'm black." Is the first thing he says to Portia,
and
it's
convinces
insane.
no one. Convinces no one. They're just like, "Oh, you're a little bit late for that." So,
and by the way, this Act 2, Scene 1, like now I think Portia is garbage. Like yeah, she was kind of like flirting with racism, but like this scene is straight up. Like I don't want to. I hope no one of your kind comes back here. Is like, okay, all right. Like,
no, I gotta own that. I was trying to carve out an acceptable path for Portia, and I gotta own my biases there. I was like, but maybe there's a way that we can. Oh, she's just a dumpster full of old scrambled eggs. She's terrible. She's
bad.
Trash. She's awful.
And the Prince of Morocco knows. Like he knows.
Oh yeah,
you know, like his first thing, mislike me not for my complexion. He's like, look, I know I'm black, and I know you. Like just by looking at your face,
I know what part of the country this is. I know that you're the princess of South Georgia, so I know what's about. But listen,
and he really like. It's funny because his monologue is all about like, look, I may be black, and I know that you're not going to be able to get around that, but I could run to the farthest reaches of the earth. I could battle and he knows like the whole time you can tell he's like, I'm not going to marry this woman.
It's the job interview where you're not getting the job, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to throw my hat in anyways. I know they're giving it to someone else. I know it's the boss's son, but I'm not going to respect myself if I don't go in for the job. So I just want everyone to know that I was the best guy for the job. So I'm going to go.
Yeah,
he actually says some variation of "If you prick us, do we not bleed?"
Yes,
but from a Moroccan's point of view. So I think it's other people who would be challenging for her heart. He's just like, my blood is at least as red as theirs, and it's just like, we're gonna be really consistent with this. That like, it's just color on top of skin, or bullshit ideas about religion that like they're the same people underneath. And
and that again like what we talked about last week, like the amount of excuse me, oh my god, what beer is this? Unreliable narrator. Oh, is that hipstery enough for you? This is called Unreliable Narrator.
We should get sponsored by overly pedantic liberal arts beers every week.
Brought to you by Tristram Shandy, the impossible beer. But what was I going to say? Do we give Shakespeare the credit for this? Because that's a hard thing to ignore, that two of these characters who are marginalized in the world of this play, and indeed today, if you want to just extrapolate to the future, have the same, they mirror each other's sentiment, which is I'm human just like everybody else. So like to me, it's hard to ignore that similarity. It's like Shakespeare. I mean, is Shakespeare working within the, like subverting the racist society in which he lives, or is he just kind of,
Or
are we
does
giving
he
him too much credit? You know what I mean? That's what
or does he in fact like know that people are all the same, but he's like, I got the audience I got. So here's the play I'm doing. And
this is what I've been working with,
if
folks.
you want to give me credit for like 3 lines 4 centuries from now, go for it. But I had to do a play for these yokels, so I did a play for these yokels. And
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll never know, but I mean, there's some things in this particular, because I say that, oh, this is an interesting subversive moment, but then I can also, in a scene coming up very shortly, there's a moment that is kind of almost overtly going the other way. So it's like, it's really hard to pick apart, whether or not he,
yeah.
he is championing this kind of racism, or, just subtly poking fun at it. You can't tell.
And I think like you just have to decide which way you're going to put the play on, because Portia, there's like 14 scenes in this act for some reason,
Yeah.
but this is the first scene. And this one, Portia actually says to the Prince of Morocco's face, like, if I got to choose who I married, you're as great as anyone that I've talked to so far. And so what I thought in that scene was that she just has like a really shallow ignorance. And if she meets a guy and that guy's black, but that guy presents himself wonderfully and has done wonderful things and is fun to be around, then she can change her mind really quickly. No, it turns out later scenes, we just realized she was just lying. She's just like
Yeah.
being semi-polite while he's in the room. And then just as soon as he leaves, she turns to her assistant and just makes Andrew Dice Clay jokes.
Yeah, it's so, because it's very convenient for her to be like, you're just as good as all these other guys, but my dad came up with this riddle. Like she was bitching about the riddle that in that first scene, and now she's kind of like, I think she's almost glad that it exists.
I didn't post the sign, okay? It's the law. I wouldn't. I think you're great. You'd be first on my list. She's just terrible. And well, I don't know. It's interesting, like how many people are terrible so far, but that the overall structure of the play is suggesting that these are the good guys.
Yeah.
It's also, I wonder if Casket had I feel like now Casket has a single meaning.
Right.
Like at this point, it seems like they're trying to act like it has a double meaning, but it's just interesting that like there's this absurd rigmarole that her father laid out for her, that it involves caskets. I don't know. I feel like you often have a better handle on like what was language back then. Like, was your read that like this is a normal way to say I've got 3 containers, or?
I honestly don't know, but I did have in the notes on my version that they're referring to a box. So like whenever a casket became a casket the way we know it now, I have no idea. But like it's used not only in the riddle thing, but it's used later. I think Lorenzo says something like, take this casket to so and so,
I think
and
when
referring to a
Jessica's
box.
sneaking out, she has a casket.
She has a casket, right?
So
that's an odd thing. Like it must have just been a generic box up until a certain point.
It kind of rhymes with all the uncomfortable racism and anti-Semitism in the play, where like people keep referring to boxes as caskets, and you just want to be like, can you use a different word? Like this is supposed to be romantic. You keep talking about caskets, and I'm getting a really weird feeling about your family, about the money I'm stealing from my father. If we could just, in multiple scenarios, just stop referring to these as caskets, I'd feel a lot less conflicted about all this and everyone in this creepy town.
Because that's what I envisioned in the beginning when they're describing the riddle, well, it's not a riddle so much as a logic game. I don't know. I don't know. It's let's call it a riddle, but like it's definitely something where like I pictured caskets, like full on caskets.
Yeah.
And maybe, her dead father's in one of them. I don't know. It's just
which, again, if you wanted to, you could have fun with on stage where like,
of course. Yeah.
Like if you want to go with full Portia's racist and crazy, just be like, and here it is, and just like full human-sized caskets, or one could be child-sized, just to make it extra creepy, and just be like, pick one, and like literally like a gold casket and a silver casket. That'd be pretty, gosh darn creepy. I don't know. It's off-putting.
It's off-putting. I mean, the whole premise of the thing is off-putting too,
And
because another thing that was off-putting is this is the first guy who engages with the riddle, and one caveat in the rules was that he's not allowed to marry anybody if he loses. What the fuck is that?
so
Where did that come from? Like, all of a sudden,
we thought this was absurd in Act 1 because it's an absurd thing to do to your daughter.
right?
But laid on top of that is you take this blood oath to never, and I'm hoping that somewhere in Act 5 there's like one line where the Duke just says, and by the way, those guys can marry anyone they want. This whole thing was silly. I'm hoping the Prince of Morocco is not like a really stand-up guy and it's just like, well, I guess the wrong casket, so I'm just gonna die alone, because that would be because the people who come to guess seem to be honorable guys. So for all we know, they are going to abide by this simpleton father's riddle game that he bequeathed to his daughter.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, is that he's coming from Morocco. It's not like he's coming from Naples. Like he's who's gonna police this thing, if he marries again. Like what? It makes no sense.
Yeah, structurally it makes no sense. Like, what's your motivation to roll the dice? 1 out of 3 chances. Best case scenario, you get to marry this woman who is racist. Much more likely scenario, you marry no one and do not increase the wealth of your house in any way because you can't marry anyone. It's I feel this way about all riddles in all media. They're just dumb. Like, I don't feel like people can actually figure out riddles. It's just like, oh, that's a thing you thought was clever. But that's not actually something that you can say to Bilbo Baggins and like he can necessarily. There's 19 answers to any riddle. There's not one riddle in your head. But I feel like this one is especially dumb. Like,
it really is. And like, in this act we get regaled with monologues from two folks trying to figure it out, and then in this first one, and in both cases they kind of talk themselves out of the right answer. Or they convince themselves that one particular answer is right. And everybody and their mother knows what casket is the right one. It's the lead one. We know this. Like, this is just, it's the dumbest fucking thing.
We were saying last time that they should compare notes on the way out so they're not all screwed. I feel like the only way...
and then they address that in this act.
Oh, do they? I missed it.
They do toward the end. Yeah, I'll mention it when we get there.
I'm just saying, I think it'd be funny if they didn't, and there was like 5 guys and they just kept guessing gold. Just every time they're just like, no, it's because the riddle doesn't make any sense. Gold's the right answer, but my dad didn't think gold was the right answer. And that's how riddles work. Arbitrarily, someone gets to decide what the right answer is. So, no, you're quote unquote wrong. I agree. Your interpretation makes sense. But alas, you can never have sex again. So
can you get in the mind of a crazy, diseased old man? Because that's the answer.
Rich his whole life. You can't imagine how insane he went.
He was batshit loony bins.
Just like a succession of men being like, gold, no, come on. I would kill for like a whole scene of them just commiserating and just like, we all agree, gold makes sense. Like, we all same. I think it was a misprint or something.
Joey, you say gold? He said gold too. Everybody said gold.
Okay, we're all on the same page here. We all got screwed. Okay.
We all agree that it should be gold. Okay.
All right. I got nothing else from scene 1. You got anything else from scene 1?
Just what the fuck? Why is he not allowed to marry anyone? As soon as I read that, I was like, what is going on? Why would you agree to that then? Like,
it is notable. It's the worst. It's the worst to start with him. I'm repeating myself, but because we know she's racist, you're exactly right that it occurred to me that he got in a fucking sailboat in Elizabethan times from Morocco And you're just like, you poor bastard. Going back and forth is 2 years out of your life. And you get here and it's just a bullshit riddle. And you probably have to commit to it by the time you've already committed a year of your life by the time you get there. So
Yeah. Yeah, these guys aren't taking Amtrak. Like it's a trip. Morocco's not near Venice. Wait, she's not in Venice.
I can't keep track of that. Are they not in Venice? Is he from Venice?
Portia's not in Venice, but everybody else is. Shylock and yeah. Anyway, okay, so yeah, that speaking of
great people,
speaking of fucking morons.
So I had to read Lancelot's opening soliloquy twice, and the first time I read it, all I got out of it was straight flat racism.
Mm-hmm.
And the second time I read it, I actually read it as like going back to, if you want to direct it this way, you can show that people understand that Shylock is a perfectly fine person and it's their own prejudices that get in the way, because he talks about there being two different voices in his head, one saying stick with his boss, Shylock, and one saying abandon his boss. And in his gut, he identifies the voice in his head that says stick with your boss as the good one, and the voice in his head that says abandon your boss and go work for a guy with less money but who's not Jewish as the evil voice. But then he rationalizes to himself, oh, but you know what? My boss is Jewish and therefore basically the devil, so they're both devils. So, all right, that'll make up my mind.
By the transitive property.
Yeah.
He's somehow
anti-Semitism.
But that's what I mean. Like in this one, it's like, because we talked about this before, about putting anti-Semitic or racist words in the mouths of fools seems to carry a message in and of itself. Yeah. But is that true? I mean, is that necessarily true in this? Because Portia is not so great either, and she's not a fool. You know, like yeah. It's really hard. It's infuriating to me. And
it's hard to think of putting on, whenever you create a movie or a play or a book, you have people that you dislike and you have your protagonist, but your protagonist is usually on screen at some point. And this is just awful person after awful person, so after awful person. And it's hard to convince yourself that, like, no, what you're really supposed to be doing is judging all these people that are following a traditional Shakespearean heroic path. This is the fool, this is the woman who's going to get married. And this guy that everyone keeps bagging on off screen, he's the good guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't often work like that. I could do it, but but again, to the overall point, I feel like I can see an arc there, because in Lancelot's head, he convinces himself that, like, it's fine to screw over his boss because his boss is Jewish. And then he runs into his dad, and their dynamic completely reminds me of that guy, you know, who isn't racist around you. He gets a little racist when he goes home or when he's around his family. And he doesn't know enough or care enough to have ever, like, rejected that part of himself. He just moved away from his hometown, and people aren't racist in the place that he moved to, and so he's not racist. But all he has to do is be back home at the dinner table for 10 minutes, and he's slipped right back into it. And he's not self-aware enough to have ever, like, done anything consciously. Like, his dad comes back, and he's just they're trading in, like, terrible ways about talking about Shylock, about Jewish people in general, about just talking about, like, like the first thing his dad says is, which way to master Jews? It's just like, he's got a name. Right. You could say, where's Shylock's house?
In a lot of, you know, in another sense, it's a great way to great moment of characterization where it's like, I wonder how we could very quickly suggest that this asshole has an asshole father. Yeah. It's like, and it's his dad comes in and goes, which way to master Jews? You're like, oh, okay, there's dad.
Yeah. And it allows you to, like, ever so slightly let Lancelot off the hook and just be like, well, you're a simpleton and you were raised by a bigot, so we don't expect that much of you.
A simpleton with a horrible sense of humor, because he's like, I'm going to go prank my dad who's half blind. And his prank is just to say, your son's dead. That's his prank.
And then like it falls flat. He's like, never mind, I'm your son. He's like, no, you're
Yeah.
not. My son tells differently. No, I am. No, but my son doesn't have a beard that long. Just like, are you stupid?
That sight gag though, I actually really enjoyed that. That Gabo is feeling the back of his head and saying, "Wow, your beard is crazy," and it's like he's clearly not rubbing the right place. Like I actually chuckled a little bit at that, but that chuckle came after tons of just horror. An
It's like
island
watching
of
the
humor.
Cosby Show now. You're just like,
Yeah.
okay, that was good comedic timing. That said,
Rudy really is cute, but oh,
my brain
Shudder.
screams, Rudy, get out.
Rudy, get away from there. That man means you harm.
Yeah, their conversation is horrible. Lancelot, like to our point, like what are the things you couldn't possibly forgive Shakespeare for? Lancelot saying to a nodding crowd, well, you know what, I've got to go try and get to a new boss because I'm a Jew. Quote, I am a Jew if I serve the Jew any longer. And
Yep.
It's just like, and again, that reminds me of ignorant people I've known where they're just like have that sort of stupid logic and like not, thankfully not like a sentence like that in the 20th century to date myself, but that kind of where you're just like, that's not even the stereotype, man. What are you talking about? That's there's no part of the stereotype that if you work for a Jewish person for over 5 years, you become, no, you're.
You know what they say. Work for a Jew, become a Jew. Wait, what? It's like, yeah, but again, we've seen this kind of character not only in our own lives, but in Shakespeare. Like, there's that the idiot racist who is just dumb racist. Like the
Yeah.
racism is so dumb, it's not rooted in any kind of logic or actual observation. You know, not that racism needs to be.
Right.
You know, please back up your racism with evidence, please.
Now listen, if people bring facts and figures, I'm always open to it.
You bring me hard data, yeah. You know, I'm a racist like anybody else.
I
but-
use Reddit, so
I'm aware. I'm woke. But like, yeah, it's like, again, it's one of those characters that it's like, is Shakespeare commenting on it, or is he masking the, you know, or is he giving permission to this anti-Semitism by using this kind of fool character? You know, like if a clown were to run a country, for instance, and just
is he still racist? Yes.
give people permission to be racist, you know.
If at any point you could say, I think he's too stupid to be racist, you're not wrong. But yeah.
Yeah, it's just odd character. Lancelot and Gabo, not a fan.
And so we get a little bit of Bassanio at the end, and if I'm being generous, and I really got burned being generous to Portia last time, so I shouldn't do it again. But if I'm being generous in the characterization of Bassanio, I like him because I feel like I'm really just saying horrible things about everyone I've ever known in my life. But I feel like I know this guy in that, first of all, when he walks on screen, so he walks on screen right as Lancelot and Gabo are, for some reason, think that if Gabo talks to Bassanio, he'll be able to talk him into taking Lancelot on as his assistant. But as Bassanio walks on screen, he's telling his lackey how he wants dinner prepared. Like, I'm having people over tonight, have the meat ready at 6 p.m. or whatever else. And I just feel like that's a great walking on like characterization. Like that's who Bassanio is. Like when you run into him, he's telling someone what to be doing that night because he's having people over.
Yeah.
And then Bassanio, I think Bassanio is narrowly a good guy. He seems to know and say out loud that Lancelot would be better off with Shylock. He says that he's not good with money, and Shylock is, and it would probably be better to work with someone who is who's actually, like, you know, solvent. Go with the guy who's loaning money, not the guy who's constantly borrowing money.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, Bassanio, later in the scene, he runs into another of these Italian guys with the interchangeable names, Gratiano,
Yep.
and he lectures him on his manners. And just everything we know about Bassanio is that like he's narrowly a good guy, in that like he recognizes that there's no reason for Lancelot to leave Sherlock, but that doesn't stop him from taking Lancelot on as his assistant.
Right.
He lectures Gratiano about like how to have good manners and how to like when he comes to dinner, like don't come off so big with your opinions and whatnot. And we know that Bassanio sucks at business and he hasn't made any money, and so he just strikes me as this guy who like exists within the upper crust of Venice or wherever these folks are from, like without skills, but like he performs a certain function within the upper echelon of people. Like he enforces manners, he makes sure people have a good time, he slaps Antonio on the back. Like he's just one of those guys who went to prep school, and you still can't figure out how he ended up with a nice house, but it's just because he went to prep school and he knows the guy at the hedge fund.
It's like the guy, the Nexium guy. He's like the Nexium guy. He's just like somehow got into a decent place. You're not quite sure how he did it.
Yeah.
He doesn't make anything or do anything or really, you know what I mean? Like, and he's kind of full of shit in a little, in a little way.
And he thinks life is basically fair. He's like, you know what? If you're nice to people and you basically like do right, you'll do great. You'll have a big house and you'll have 4 cars. It's just like, dude.
Positive mental attitude.
Yeah, you got to visualize it. Like, that's what you got to do. And yeah, sometimes, like, literally, you'll be so out of money that you'll expose your friend to ruinous harm by going into debt for you. But if you just think good thoughts, it's going to work out, because that's how the world is. And he's not a bad guy in anything that he can see. It's just that he can see 3 feet around his privileged ass.
Yeah, and it's funny because you talked a lot in the first episode about like there's a certain like Antonio being kind of that ilk too, and it didn't hit me that much until this scene. Like that whole idea of like, well, we're making arrangements right now, and just make sure that they're seen to. It's just kind of like, wow, okay, so he's as big a dick as Antonio. These people are kind of deserving what's going to happen to them. Like they're not as good of people as we think.
Yeah, there's like you could. What's the name of the guy? Is it James Spader from the '80s movies?
Yes,
he would be great, Bassanio, just to pull him aside and say, "Hey,
yeah.
Listen, that's great, but just so you know, at dinner tonight, don't come off strong. Just be cool, okay? Like, just if you need to get a bump of cocaine, but like, just
talking to Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. as Antonio would be fantastic. Like, I get it. No, it's fine. Okay.
Like you rub people the wrong way, man, and it's just I'm trying to help you out.
Okay, this dinner's actually really important. It doesn't seem that way, but I swear to God, if you come into this dinner and you try and close a deal, I'm gonna fucking murder you, okay? Just look like you've been to a high stakes dinner before, okay? Like I'm getting some mutton. It's gonna be fine.
You're gonna blow this Porsche thing for me. I know you're gonna do it.
Deal, okay, I got a lot running on this Porsche thing. Yeah, and so again, like I can see an arc for all these things. It just seems like a play about contemptible people if I got to direct it. I don't know if that's what he writes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I could easily see this being done in a way that is, what's a good example of an ensemble movie where everybody's a piece of shit? Like
I was thinking of like Talented Mr. Ripley, where it's a psychopath trying to ingratiate himself with people who are like either like from true neutral to lawful evil, but that's about the spectrum of them, or like not what's Great Gatsby, like people just ruining lives just because they can't think any better. Like they just assume everyone's rich and they don't really care.
It's like I'm. Oh, you know what? What it could be? It's like I was having this conversation with somebody not long ago where Always Sunny in Philadelphia came up, and how the premise of that show is that there is no likable character.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody is nobody's your hero in that. And that's kind of what this play is reminding me of. It's like nobody, you can't get behind anybody really. You know, like it's just a bunch of despicable people, and then like despicable people, and then the targets of those despicable people's racism. Like
Yeah,
that's it.
and I feel like those are always like your mileage may vary. Like I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I loathe Seinfeld. And like you just have to decide you like one of those, both of those, or not. But like it's easy for anyone to say like, yeah, I just don't like the people. And you're like, oh no, they're not good people. I get it. Like I understand if you don't want to spend a half an hour watching them. I find it fun, and other people find some of them fun. But like it just has to work for you or it doesn't. But yeah, that'd be a really fun way to do this. Just like you could cast. It's funny. It always is 3 guys and a girl. So you could cast
Danny
either of
DeVito
those
as
folks.
Shylock.
Yeah. So I got my ducats. That'd be fucking fantastic.
my daughter, my ducats.
He's just walking around with a pistol. Fucking daughter.
Julius
Perlman as Narissa.
Oh, it'd be perfect.
I got nothing else from scene 2. You got anything else?
Scene
From
two, no. I wrote Graciano's an asshole and Bassanio's making sure he knows it. That's
It's just perfect before a rich person's dinner where they're going to talk business, where he just like sets them straight and he's like, dude, if you pull any of that fucking shit tonight, I will fucking end you. And it's great that the dinner doesn't even happen. And so we just get that scene just to show Bassanio policing his speech. Like, if that dinner happened, it'd be interesting, but it's just like, and this is where I want to give Shakespeare credit for like the kind of play that I want to see on stage, because first of all, I don't know at this point why there's like 6 different Italians doing business when it seems like you have 2 characters. But in this one, like it really firmed up Bassanio's asshole characteristics for me, in that like, no, what you wanted to see is just his insecurity in front of a dinner. And then you just fucking blow off the dinner because you already have what you need.
Yes. You not only do you blow off the, like that's what my question was, because like the wind changes later on and they like, okay, we're going. Like it was like, well, holy changed. And I was like, is that what it was like back then?
Oh shit, wind.
Like you plan a party and then all of a sudden the wind picked up and you're like, this is our chance.
Which just fucking drives home what the Prince of Morocco has gone through. You're in the middle of the fucking sea. The wind stops for a month. You're just like, well, it's going to be worth it when I can look at 3 caskets. It's all going to be worth it.
It's all going to come full circle for old Bassanio.
All right. Speaking of, well, I think if you can like,
if you
find a way to do scene 2, scene 3.
Scene 3 is when the anti-Semitism gets even worse.
Jesse.
Like, if you think it's bad that most of the characters in this play don't like Jews, his own daughter doesn't like.
So his
Jews.
daughter. So I don't know if Shylock is in any way a Jewish name. I know it sounds like a repulsive name, which makes it seem all the more anti-Semitic. Where like, I don't know, for the same reason that I know that crab for a dog is funny to me. Like Shylock just feels like, I don't know what you're trying to convey to me, but it feels anti-Semitic there. Like it doesn't feel, it doesn't sound like it's derived from Yiddish. It just sounds like I'm trying to come up with someone who's, I feel like both parts of the name are about hiding things. Like, it's like Devious. My name is Devious. I wonder if we should trust Devious. And then his daughter's name is Jessica. It's like, Shakespeare couldn't try harder to say like, she doesn't belong in the Jewish faith. Her name is fucking Jessica. Shylock name's daughter's name is Jessica. Like,
it's like a nice first generation move of like, my name is Muhammad, but my son's gonna be named James.
Jimmy. Yeah. Jessica loves Lorenzo. Again, who knows why we need like a 5th Italian for her to love. Maybe it'll become clear at some point. But
bet you it doesn't.
probably even odds. Lancelot reframes the line that I liked from Portia, where he says, "Oh, you're so cute and fun. I bet you're actually the illegitimate the illegitimate daughter of a Christian." And I
Yeah.
thought it was funny when she said about a blacksmith, but this is not funny, to be clear. You seem really fun and human. So, but the thing that like I realized through this act is that, and this is where you again could give him credit for telling the story that we think we're seeing, is that what should happen to the protagonist is the stakes are rising. And Shylock is the only person who the stakes are rising for. Like, he's losing his daughter is undermining him. People are talking shit about him. He's like, every time someone has a conversation, it's about screwing Shylock over. And so that is the forces aligning themselves against one character, which would usually be the protagonist.
Yeah,
So,
that's the normal story arc. The protagonist is the person who faces the obstacles and then either overcomes them or doesn't. So, yeah, it's got to be Shylock, right? Because nobody else. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that Antonio, because all of his money is tied up in these boats.
but
Maybe.
it's just like it's like, but it's the worst type of it's like not storytelling to say like, oh, we said in Act 1 if this bad thing happens, it'll be bad for our protagonist, and then it happened in the middle of the play. It's just like, wait, that's not rising tension. That's like in a sci-fi movie when you have people like go before the Senate and they say, "Oh, I hope this bad thing doesn't happen." Then it happens. That's a terrible example. I'm gonna cut it when I edit this, but it's not storytelling, is what it is. It's like, I'll try this. It's like when you're writing something and you say, "Okay, we need to establish that something's going to happen in Act 1. That needs to happen in Act 3 to raise the stakes." But you have to actually like show that steadily growing, not just have a character say, "Oh, bad thing happened. That's bad things for our likable protagonist who's done everything he can to avoid this, not been a fucking moron," as Antonio has.
Right.
And we hit upon my least favorite racist trope, where once again someone, I think it's in this scene, next scene. I'll hold off until we get to scene 4.
Well, there's not much going on in scene 3 other than Jessica saying, "I wish I could marry Lorenzo, but for this Jewish curse."
And her straight up saying, I think for no reason, saying like, "I've got to renounce my religion to marry."
Makes sense.
To go for Lorenzo. And like, so totally true at the time, I could allow that, but you don't have to have her be so eager. And when you have a situation, when you have star-crossed lovers, you don't have Juliet say like, "Well, clearly I'm going to fuck over the Capulets." You have two star-crossed lovers say, "How can we reconcile this? Our love should be bigger than what society needs." Not just like, "Well, clearly my family's great and yours is trash." Like, come on down, baby. Like, it's a really short play if that's how Juliet feels, but
I'm going to open this beer, so I don't want to like cut into somebody's talking.
that's okay.
I don't know if you could hear that.
No, I could. It's brilliant sound. All right, let me get to very quickly in scene 4, my least favorite Shakespearean racist trope: getting horny for white hands. Just like, oh, let me find the actual.
Oh, her fair. Yeah, her fair.
Yeah.
The hand is fair, and as are the hands that wrote it, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Lorenzo gets the stupid note from Jessica, and I know the hand. In faith, 'tis a fair hand, wider than the paper it's writ on.
Oh. Oh, did you get your anti-Semitic note from your Jewish girlfriend? That's really weird, man.
Well, and again, to like be with your anti-Semitic friends and get the note from your Jewish girlfriend and be like, "Ooh, she's so white." And they're like, "Yeah, she is."
High five. And the only thing, again, this is what I'm talking about. This play, like, Lorenzo is standing there, gets the note from Jessica, and he's talking about how they're going to steal Jessica away into the night from Shylock.
Yeah.
And they're also going to rip him off.
Right.
They're going to steal.
It's never explained. Shylock is it's never like if you could come up with a contrivance why they need to rip him off, but it isn't.
Right.
It's just like it's okay to rip him off. It's
Yeah.
just assumed it's okay to rip him off. Like, and that's just an escalation of the stakes for Shylock. We know Shylock didn't have the money to loan, but the guy egged him into a situation to make a bad loan on a stupid sailboat, and all he got back for it was the right to torture him. Then his daughter is stealing from him.
Yeah.
And there's no attempt to say like, I hate stealing from my father, but he'll be so angry about this that we need enough money to get safe passage to the other side of Italy. Nope. It's just like, fuck
Not
it.
at all. Yeah, and
Who
that's
cares?
the thing.
He's Jewish, and I won't be Jewish anymore once we get married. So let's
right. So fuck him. But then that's the thing is that. Excuse me. Again, that's the thing. Unreliable narrator. And that's the thing is that the Lorenzo keeps referring to him, the faithless Jew, and and all that stuff, and it's like you're the one stealing from him,
right?
And which makes me think,
to convince someone's daughter to renounce their father and steal his money is faithless.
So that's what makes me think that maybe Shakespeare again is like it's so hard to decipher what Shakespeare's point is in a lot of these scenes, but this one is, like I said, when we first started talking about this act, that this is one of those ones where it's like it's starting to go back the other way now, where it's like maybe the comment is on the racist society and not and not trying to perpetuate these prejudices. But I can't tell. It's like it's impossible to tell. Like it really is.
And I think like the toughest part is the lack of a protagonist, because in any movie about someone suffering bigotry, you at some point show your protagonist and make them likable and heroic. You don't just make a movie racists in the cafeteria trading racist jokes. Saying, see, we're gonna do this for 60 minutes and you're gonna be so sure these guys are racist. Like,
you'll believe a man can be racist. Uberman, the movie.
I don't think anything other. And
that joke was smarter than it had any right to be, by the way. Like I stumbled upon that.
Scene 4 is just Lorenzo and his buddies high-fiving. Like there's various times in Shakespeare where you're like, why didn't you show that? Why'd you have guys talking about it? But especially here when they're talking about ripping Shylock off, it's really weird to have, I think, 3 characters, including Lancelot, just talking about how they're going to do it. It's just like, this seems like a smash and grab job, not like something romantic.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Lorenzo and Jessica's love story. I don't buy, and I'm hoping that it's not genuine.
If memory serves, and it's been 20 years, so memory may not serve, but I think they end up together. So I think that's one of the places where you're just like, I don't know, Billy. I wanted to get there with you, but
what was your point with that one again? Yeah, the Jessica arc. What was the point of that?
So she stole the money, and then they went off over rich together with money they hadn't earned. But it's okay
because they're
Christians.
From a different
religion. Get it?
Yeah, I get it, but I don't think you want. Okay.
Actually, this is better than Hamlet and Henry V, in my opinion. I think this one's the best. Bill, could you stop that? Honestly, people say The Tempest, and I'm like, the jokes in Venice are actually the best. These are my best jokes, hands down.
You should see all the Jew jokes I took out of Hamlet. Oh, that whole thing was about Jews.
You can't imagine the shit I got. This was when I could tell you can't make jokes. By 1600, there's no jokes anymore. Everyone's PG. Back in 1597, you could do some good Merchant of Venice jokes. That's why it's my favorite. I honestly just wanted to stick to comedy, but then they got all up my ass. That's the only reason I did the fucking histories, because people started bringing phones to my shows and recording things, and then it's a thing.
Gets on the internet and forget it. Goes up and down the Thames.
Out of context, you have just because you have 9 different characters calling one Jewish character the devil, they make you out to be anti-Semitic. It's It's hurtful, is what it is. There's no creativity left in Hollywood, is what I'm saying, is Bill Shakespeare.
And the funny thing is that like if my memory serves, which it probably doesn't, but like the Jew of Malta, which we talked about before, is a similar play. I want to say that play is even less subtle with the anti-Semitism. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like even I don't know. Yeah. So they're gonna rip him off. They're gonna rip Shylock off because of course they are the good Christian people.
Right, because they're the good guys, and he deserves it. So get to scene 5, and so this is the first time everyone's just been talking about Shylock throughout the whole act. So we get Shylock for the first time, and he's pretty like conspiratorial about like. So he comes across as like an overbearing father, and he's like, Jessica, stay inside, lock up. I don't want you to even hear songs on the street. And again, consistently in Shakespeare, music means like enjoying life. Music is like being in touch with what is like actually makes us human and what is wonderful. So like if you are going to line up the metaphors in Shakespeare, Shylock saying lock yourself in so you can't hear the music outside is what the bad guy does. But we know she's going to rip him off and he's not coming to play a song. Like what he's saying to his daughter is like, I don't want you being drawn in by some romantic things because I think you'll make a bad decision. And that sounds like a really overbearing father. But in fact, like he's giving her way too much credit. She's not going to be seduced by some guy playing a lute. She is already planning to rip him off and renounce her religion. And like, if anything, he's quaintly naive that like that's what he needs to worry about. He's like, stay off the internet in those chat rooms while I'm gone, and she's already like,
she's got an OnlyFans already.
Yeah,
that's what it is. She's already gone to the OnlyFans, and he's like, don't log into that Facebook
because some people might tell you about sex.
and that's the thing is like what. Like not only does he not want her to get influenced by the I'm kind of with Shylock here when he's like he calls them the fopperies of like they're like he straight up says what is it to Lancelot he's like oh they're gonna put on masks and parade in the streets you know what no Jessica close all the windows you don't want any of that bullshit like that stuff just is fucking ridiculous. Like just please close the windows. I don't want you to have to suffer through that shit. And I was kind of with him. I'm kind of like that shit is infuriating, I
was gonna say this is unique so far, and it strikes me as kind of unique where like we know everyone's lying to him. He's saying Lancelot do this, Jessica do that, and they're all just like, yeah, I'm abandoning you in an hour. Like, you are the mark. Like, you are getting ready to go to dinner. Like, again, Shylock is planning for a dinner that he thinks that he would never be invited to in regular times. And he knows that it's just because they want his money, but he's going to go to the dinner anyways. And so, like, he's getting ready to get screwed over in business. He's talking to people within his house who he feels safe with. And you just know that they're all just planning to just rip him off. And it's just... You can't hold anything like the idea that he's suspicious being something that is how he gets his character is just like well yeah
yeah he's aware of how Jew hating the world that he lives in is he knows like and he's also very realistic. Like I love the asides he gives to Lancelot this whole time. Like some really like great like Larry David one-liners where he's like, oh, you're gonna go work for Bassanio? Yeah, you know what you're not gonna be able to do over there is eat all the time, is fucking stuff your face constantly, like you do here. And then like he's like Jessica, he calls her Jessica, and then he goes back to him and he's like, oh, you know what? The other thing, you're not gonna be able to take long naps, stupid. Like I let you do, like I catch you doing constantly. Like it's like a really great moment.
Over there. You're gonna.
Yeah, he's like, it's a really great moment where he's
great
like,
about him is that
you're going to leave me, huh?
He'll make you work to death, and he has no business plans. So it's going to be great.
Good luck with that.
He actually, how I hate malapropisms, but he has a malapropism I really like, and that Lancelot says, line 20. I beseech you, sir, my young master doth expect your reproach. He means
Yes.
approach. And Shylock says, so do I his. And it just means like, I know they're gonna spit in my face. Like they want my money. I'm gonna go there. They're gonna make anti-Semitic comments the whole time I'm there, and then I'm gonna give them a no interest loan. Like, and critically, Shylock doesn't do what Shakespearean characters usually do when there's malapropisms, which is mock the lower class person. He
Yeah.
turns it into an intelligent thing where it's just like he's actually treating Lancelot as if he is doing wordplay effectively. Like he's picking Lancelot up there and like treating him as an equal communicator when everyone else would usually condescend to him.
Yeah, and pointing out that he is going to have a worse time in his life moving over to Bassanio. Like you had it good with me.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually the hero of this story. Like whatever you think, I'm actually the protagonist. But good luck.
Yeah, like I I've I've said that to people professionally before. We're just like you are never going to have it this good again. Like go, you don't know what you're doing. This is dumb. So go with God because.
And as much as that content, as much as that we're talking about, like how compelling it, like Shylock really seeming to be the hero of this story. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if your version is the same as mine, but at the top of the page, the stage direction says, "Enter Shylock the Jew and his man Lancelot that was the clown."
Yeah, I noticed that, and I didn't know what that was. But that is insane. That in the liner notes, once he's not working for Shylock anymore, he's not the clown anymore.
Yeah, so it's like, so the question is like, so what does that mean? Is Shakespeare suggesting that when he stopped working for the Jew, he's no longer a clown? Like it's like, then you look at that and you're like, what the fuck are you doing, Shakespeare?
Liner notes. I mean, you have to pray to God that is just really racist editing, where someone in the thought police is just like, well, wait a minute, he's crossed that out. He can't be a clown anymore. He's made the right decision here. This is a play about people doing the right thing and screwing over someone of another religion. I did notice that, and it's bonkers. And speaking of bonkers, the last line of this fucking act is Jessica left alone, Shylock's left, everyone's left, and she says to no one, "Farewell, and if my fortune be not crossed, I have a father, you a daughter, lost."
Yeah.
It's just like she's like fully aware of what she's doing. She's just like, oh yeah, I don't think we'll ever see each other again, and nowhere have I alleged that you're a bad dad.
Yeah.
At no point have I said you've mistreated me. I've just said, oh, I like this guy, so I'll renounce everything that you've ever tried to like do for me.
And that's the thing, is that Shylock knows what's up, but this is the only thing he can't predict.
Yeah, he's exactly right that the prejudice of the world around him will undermine him, even to these two people he's treated well. Like, it doesn't matter that he's been good to these two people. He can't overcome what's going to happen with his good deeds. Like,
right.
It reminds me of like the way I tried to reconcile Shrew was saying, like, you know, if you have Kate as someone who's traveled through time and is just stuck in this fucking ignorant ass time period, then like you could start to understand, like you could start to like put it on as a production, understand where it'd like to be someone. And I almost feel like you could do that with Shylock, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is what it would be like to be Jewish in 16th century Italy. So fun night at the theater. Like, I think you all knew this intellectually, but we just decided to show you what it would be like. So, spoiler alert, it sucks. It doesn't matter what you do.
The funniest comedy of the summer.
Merchant of Venice does nothing right as a merchant, but wins in the end. You'll love it. All right, scene 6. Fucking Graciano. Fuck this guy.
The Great Escape. Scene 6 is The Great Escape of Jessica.
Lorenzo comes to meet the boys. Are like, hey, is this where we're supposed to go? Is this where the Jewish guy lives? There's no addresses in Venice. That's just
It's just known
everyone
as
asks
Jew
directions.
House. Yeah.
And Lorenzo joins the boys, and he says, "Oh yeah, this is the home of my father, the Jew." It's like,
And they all have a good chuckle at that, I'm sure.
yeah, like elbows into ribs. It's just awful. She, this is the part I was talking about where she tosses down a casket. Um, it could be that there's like a misunderstanding en route, and that caskets will be switched. But I don't know. I can't get past casket language. It just feels like, especially since she's screwing over the entirety of her heritage.
It's so nuts. It's like the word, like I kind of love that when words like have completely different meaning, but this one, it feels like I don't think I've seen that in any other Shakespeare play or like play that I can remember. A box being regularly called a casket.
Well,
It seems like a deliberate move, you know, like
yeah, and if you wanted to, like, we think Portia's love is dead. We think Jessica's love is dead. Even if on screen it'll fit the arc of a Shakespearean thing, you could find a way to just like deliver a casket. Here comes the casket. I don't know. You could find a way to make that land, because it's in the same way that the racism and the anti-Semitism like overwhelms what people are saying. Like she talks about the casket, and then Jessica says some nice things about how everything's going to work out because love is blind, and it's like, no, it isn't. You're aware that you're Jewish and you're rejecting it.
yeah.
If love was blind, you guys would be like, listen, man, they can decide what they want, but we love each other. But it's just like, no, you see yourself as Jewish and you don't want that. So that's not love is blind.
It's that the whole scene, like she for part of the plot is that she has to dress. I mean, I don't know if she has to, but she dresses as a boy
Just for Shakespeare.
to disguise. It's just for Shakespeare. And so like, and she goes on a lot about it. Like, oh, I don't want you to see me like this, dressed as a boy. Just, you know, but I know that love is blind. And it's like, what? Come on. At one point I thought Lorenzo was going to be like, no, it's okay, baby. Keep it on. I like the little boy look. It's pretty awesome.
Go.
Don't take it off. Okay.
And Graciano, just fucking scumbag. Like, maybe Bassani was right to tell him to lay it off, because Graciano, line 51, sees her and he says, "Now, by my hood, a gentle and no Jew," saying like, "Oh, I thought she'd come out." And I don't know what he thought was going to happen.
She was going to Jew it up, but no, she didn't.
Turns out she looks like a teen girl.
I was expecting like some kind of like lupine creature.
It's like he is like Borat, when Borat like learns that someone's Jewish. He's just like, "What? Wait, you don't have egg child. Don't you suck blood?" Like, he's just like, what is this? Whoa, that's, which is on its face disgusting and awful, but also just gross in that, like, I almost hear something tactical in it where he's like, "Oh, she can pass for human. Like, this will be fine. I was skeptical, dude, but I think this will work out." It's gross. And since at this point I hate all these people, I really loved the foreboding of Antonio walking on screen, and I think Antonio says, "The wind has come about," and like, the wind has come about is just such a nice little phrase, and it feels like it just like the shitstorm's blowing in, and I'm eager for everyone to be wrecked. Like, like by the time we get to the fifth act, I've got a hard time, you and me, feeling like, oh man, he shouldn't have to cut a pound off himself.
Yeah,
that'd be terrible. He shouldn't ask that of him, Shylock. This guy's he's gonna do good things with his life. He's repented. I can't imagine getting to Act 5 and doing anything other than being like, "Nope, fuck you, dude.
Cut his dick off."
You're the merchant. You're the merchant who likes to pat himself on the back. You made a fucking deal, so you won't die. You'll just have one ass cheek for the rest of your life." So
it occurs to me now that I'm looking at my notes that I made us jump the gun because scene 7 is the Moroccan scene. The scene before the scene that introduces the Moroccan, he doesn't make the selection yet.
He doesn't, and which is, I don't know. It's just interesting in that, like, I don't know. Is it again like, was the crowd ever supposed to be in a suspension of disbelief? Like, A, the first suitor's never going to get it. We know that Bassanio is going to get it. But also, like, we definitely didn't think the Moroccan suitor was going to get it. So, I don't know. Like, I like it as structure. I would like structuring it this way. He gets introduced, he meets her, and then 5 acts later, he tries to get it if he was in a hero's arc. But here it's just like, okay, well, now we'll see him fail the way we know he's going to. And he chooses gold, and then inside the casket, so he's supposed to open up the casket, and inside, if there's a picture of her, he gets her. He chooses gold. He has lots of words that are very pretty saying why he chooses gold. Inside, there's a death's head, which I think of as a human skull with horns on it. What do you picture when you think of death's head?
I thought it was a skull.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because earlier in the play, they had another phrase like that it was referring to a skull.
And
or was it, or maybe it was Love Labor's Lost, but whatever. That Shakespeare has referred to a skull like that before, I think.
So, back to my general criticism of riddles, it doesn't make any fucking sense. What he says about gold is some variation of like, this is what lots of men want, and like, yeah, lots of men do want death, but like, that's not a solvable riddle. That's not. I don't know. It's just like, you could play sad trombone from Price is Right when you open it up, and there'd be nothing there. But like, actually, if you truly understood the riddle, you would know that this meant this is what men want. Let me find the exact line just to say how fucking stupid I think it is.
Maybe he's using want like the word need, like it wants, which Shakespeare has done before, like, something that it's lacking. So maybe the riddle is more like, this is something that some men need to happen to them, which is death. I
can see that.
Again, I'm being way too generous for Billy Shakes.
Oh, I'm sorry. So there's a skull and a scroll, and so he just has to read this, which is funny because the next one, this guy. So the gold one has a skull inside it, which like, okay, you lost. But then there's a scroll where you just have to read this poem that just says like, "Fuck you, you're dead." It says, I'll just read it really quickly. A carrion death within whose empty eye there is a written scroll. I'll read the writing because that's what they always do. She's like, oh, I'll read this out loud. All that glisters is not gold. Often have you heard that told. Many a man his life hath sold, but my outside to behold. Gilded tombs do worms enfold. Had you been a wise as bold, young in limbs and judgment old, your answer had not been inscrolled. Fare you well, your suit is cold. All that's saying is you guessed wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there's no. I fucking hate riddles. It's just there's no difference between riddles and BuzzFeed quizzes. Like, it's just like, it's a random answer. It's just a fucking random answer.
I really am a Targaryen.
Fuck you, BuzzFeed quiz. I'm not a Targaryen.
Which Harry Potter?
So the Prince of Morocco, more than anyone, just gets dragged across the screen. Like, he has to read a fucking scroll. He says nice things. She says that she would do it. He dejectedly walks off screen, never to marry anyone else. And
still
Portia,
don't understand that caveat, but
yeah. And Portia says to fucking no one, a gentle riddance, draw the curtains, go. Let all of his complexion choose me so.
Oh, boy. Is that overwhelmingly just fucking racist.
Imagine some guy has sailed across the Mediterranean to try and win your hand. He goes to your dad's stupid fucking Indiana Jones riddle game, guesses wrong.
That's the greatest way to think about it.
Your dad's fucking scroll. Look at your dad's. Your dad collected some poor peasant's head just to fucking put in his fucking casket.
I'm not putting my head in there. No, get that guy's head.
And then he has to fucking walk out, and your response is, I hope that happens to every black guy.
Oh
Absolute
boy,
fucking
Portia,
animal of a human being, just
oh,
lower than dirt. If the best thing that could happen in this scene would be a steamroller just burst on the stage and just smash her to bits.
How many times do you think that line has been cut? That's gotta because you know that there's somebody, you know, like back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody's like, well, we don't want it to be completely racist. Like,
well, also, it is super classy if you just do that first line, a gentle riddance, draw the curtains, go. That sounds like, oh, I am stuck in a tough situation, and I'm so sorry for that, man. And then you're like, woo. Yeah, no, it's so easy to de-racistify that.
You know it's racist, too, when you're rhyming. When you've got a rhyming couplet.
You know why?
That's
because
deep
you want to
racism.
put a cigarette behind your head and go, oh!
Let all of his complexion choose me so.
Just the first one is delivered beautifully, like Shakespeare, and then you're like, oh fuck Portia. I hope she falls off a mountain in the next act.
Yeah, I mean,
off screen, Portia falls off a mountain.
Just so like.
Scene 8 begins with enter Celerio and Solanio, two characters who I will never fucking care if
they could be played by anybody, and you could like switch the characters around. It would make no difference.
If this was just Bassanio talking to himself, would it fucking matter?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't matter. It would be just cut those characters.
They're just two guys who are important characters who are just going to walk on screen and just tell us what happened and use some casual racism.
Yep.
Like, they just drive home everyone who is in the princely court is a racist bag of shit.
Yep.
In the same way that you noticed that that Lancelot stops being the clown, it jumped out to me here that they're talking about what's happening in town, and they say that Shylock realized he got robbed. He went to the Duke, and the Duke, called out the cops, and they're looking for folks right now. And I was like, oh, so the Duke actually responds when Shylock says I've been robbed. Like, that was like, everyone's been so racist to this point. I was like, oh, I thought like literally if the Duke is the ultimate authority here, like this is the first time anyone in authority has been like, oh no, actual rules apply to Shylock. That's just a testament to like how low the bar is right now, where I'm like, oh, Shylock has standing before the law? That's great. That's great to see.
It reminded me a lot of a sobbing woman going, they're shooting at us. They're supposed to be shooting at BLM.
What's your name? Debbie Jones. What's your address? 33.
Yeah, but the one thing we do learn in that scene, I think the scene is only there to suggest that Antonio's ships might be in trouble.
Well,
that's really it, you know.
But before that, I love this thing where like the Duke went to see if Lorenzo and Jessica escaped on Bassanio's boat, and the guys say to each other, Antonio vouched for the fact that didn't happen. I'm like, that means fuck all. Antonio, if he was ripping off Shylock, would vouch for, like, it's, again, like, if you wanted to show this as being a completely corrupt thing, it's just like, and that's entered into the court? Like, Antonio vouches that Bassanio didn't do that? Okay, cool. Like,
let the record show.
Bro 1 said bro 2 was totally not there. Possibly the worst anti-Semitic thing. I think they referred to the dog Jew.
Dog Jew.
Yeah, that's
it's
not fun to say out loud.
No, it really just.
Oh, and it's before. Yeah, so I'm curious your take on this. I'm wondering if this will be undercut in the next scene, but they say so. Shylock discovers what happened, and these guys telling, and their telling is, as the dog Jew did utter in the streets, and then Shylock wanders around declaring his daughter and his ducats meaning Italian money, being interchangeable. He mourns them both equally. He starts to confuse them, talk about my Christian ducats. It's a contemptible anti-Semitic stereotype. It in my reading, and again, probably given Bill way too much credit here, but I was just like, well, these are two fucking schmoes talking about what happened,
Right.
and like that's what would get around town. Once we ripped him off,
Right.
how do you not make it wrong to rip someone off? Do you completely dehumanize them? Like,
Yeah, and I honestly think like it's I think it's very important because I think by this point Shakespeare knows a little bit about characterization and how to build a character. And I think that having these people talk about it and say this is what Shylock said is kind of a master stroke in a lot of ways, where it's like, consider the source. Like it's not like, you know, it's like it's like like now, like, you know, well he said, you know, and it's like, well, who told you that? You know, I honestly think that this might be a very deliberate choice of you know, these two characters are basically misrepresenting the whole thing.
Yeah, and they misrepresent after that kids are fucking chasing him in the street, making fun of him after his daughter has run off, stolen stuff from him, and there's no better way to, again, in any media, say this town is fucking hateful than to have hateful children. Like, if you show hateful children, you're just like, well, this town's fucking rotten to the core. Like, like when you're the new guy in town and you meet a child, that child sucks. If that child is stupid, then that's a stupid town. If that child is racist, it's a racist town.
Yeah.
And if that child is full of wonder and loves to play baseball, then this is a great town. My goodness.
This is the natural.
But like, yeah, like it's like what's happening on the page is like fighting with the structure. Maybe he just knew this is what the people needed, and so I don't know.
I think it's very hard. Like, it's such a like it's like I'm thinking of like other scenes that reminds me of like there's a scene in Three Sisters, in Chekhov's Three Sisters, where this big fire happens and all these characters kind of come in and you know, tell little bits and pieces of like what happened. And you know, this one character Vershinin goes into this this monologue about it, and you start to realize that the monologue's not necessarily about the fire, it's more about him, you know, and him as a character. And it's like this reminds me of that it's not necessarily that what Shylock did was probably pretty natural, you know, bemoan the loss of his daughter and probably the money too.
Yeah.
But not at the same time like that, and probably more about his daughter, you know. And this is just
like the betrayal that his daughter ripped him off. Like,
right.
I can't if you're in Shakespeare's universe, what do when you're bereft? You rend your garments and you soliloquize. And so, yeah, you would say, I am betrayed by my daughter, and my daughter stole from me. Like that, it's...
And Shylock has already shown us that, like, he cares about money just like any businessman cares about money. When we first meet him, he's being asked to give this like bogus ass loan,
and he
to this guy who doesn't need it. You know,
he decides that he cares more about his pride than the money. He's like, you know, put the interest aside. I'm not going to put up with your shit anymore. Like, it's worth more to me to call your fucking bluff than it is to make the interest money on this. So
yeah. So I mean, for me, like, this scene is more about the character saying those lines than it is about Shylock, you know. And again, are we giving Shakespeare? I don't know. Like, this is pretty deliberate. Like, it's not Shylock saying these things. It's these two guys.
Right. He's either working in a 4-dimensional space here, or this is just, there's no attempt at storytelling here, and it's just racism. Like, it's either the Jew of Malta or it's something like transcendent.
Yeah. And like, I know that there have been productions of this where it is like like, and again, people will argue this is the beauty of Shakespeare, because you can kind of turn it into whatever you want. If you're a racist scumbag producing this play, you can make it into a pretty racist play. But if you're, you know, if you're into analyzing, you know, how anti-Semitic constructs happen in the society, you could make that play too. Like, it's like either one, it goes back and forth the whole time, you know. And I think that to me is like, it's like, it's super. Do I think Shakespeare sat there and said, I'm going to write a intentionally ambiguous play? You know, no.
I know it sells ambiguity.
Nobody be able to make heads or tails of this. I mean, he clearly had a viewpoint himself.
Yeah.
It's just hard to take it out of the history. You know, it's hard to uncouch it from the society that it came from, you know.
And it's weird if you understand that your medium is you write plays and thereafter they can be put on, and at some point you might have some sense of like, hey, me and this Christopher Marlowe guy are like kind of feeling our oats, so like these might be put on by people other than me someday, to like write it in such a way that just like, hey, if a hack gets this, I'm pretty sure I know what the play will be. The play will be, ha ha, Jew falls down the stairs. 5 acts of ha ha, Jew's daughter steals his money, and that's the joke. The joke is pretty girl screws over her dad. So like, if you think about him as like completely controlling his medium, then yeah, you can make the case for this. But if you give him enough credit to be insightful enough to be like essentially doing what's the word for when you're making fun of what you say you're doing?
Self-referential.
Not self-referential. The it's the thing where everyone says is dead.
Deprecation. Self-deprecating.
It's a really simple word.
Poop. Pee.
Farts.
Pee pee. Farts. Caca. Dog. Cat.
What is the Daily Show?
Satire.
Yes.
Yay, we got there.
All right, that's going to be a really okay. So try and make it
no, you got to keep poo poo pee pee in there.
That's good content. If you like know you're doing satire, that only works if you tell your actors, like, to be clear, you are the asshole. I am writing these words like you are the good guy, but you have to deliver this like the asshole, and it has to be unmistakable because I actually don't believe these things I'm writing. The satire only comes through if you decide to push it through. So
yeah,
it's one thing if you're a movie maker, then like you get to shoot your movie, but
that's a good point, because I think satire played literally is not satire. It's
right.
It is what it is.
The Colbert Report played literally is
it's the O'Reilly factor.
Yeah.
You know, like that's yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
That said, I know these two fuckers, Solanio and Celerio, and I love it. First of all, Solanio and Celerio is a great way to feel like you see two guys in the upper class who dress the same. Like,
yeah,
I'm Celerio, he's Solanio. I'm Blake, he's Blaine. Like, you can see Solanio and Celerio sitting there talking about what happened. It's fucking perfect. And I just love that, like, they're talking about how fucking ships have wrecked off the coast of Great Britain, and they're like, yeah, oh, I mentioned it to Antonio, he seemed pretty bummed about it. Yeah, but like be cool, like don't bum him out, like he's into it, don't bum him out too much, like, you know, he probably lost about $6 million he doesn't have, but like don't, just be cool about it. And it's just like, I don't know, I just feel I just really like the way that like they're talking about this guy. Their casual anti-Semitism is so cruel, and then when they talk about just this guy making a dumb bet and losing all his money at sea, they're just like, okay, but just like think about how he's going to feel about it. Okay, like don't be a bummer. Okay, I'm sure it's all going to be fine. He's up to his fucking eyeballs in debt, and he shouldn't have fucking done this.
Yeah,
and
I mean, once he loses this election, he's going to be really sad about it. So, you know, go easy on him. I hate to keep doing it, but
They actually say to each other, like, one of them says, a kind of gentleman treads not the earth. And you could deliver that in a way where what you're saying is like these is what fucking gentlemen are. Like we try and say rich people are gentlemen, but they're actually just these dumb fucks who are just like, they make dumber bets on speculation than you ever would. They suck at it. And then they spend a lot of time like worrying about each other's feelings when those dumb bets on speculation wreck our lives. Like,
yeah,
his speculation is the same as, any fuckhead on Wall Street or venture capital right now. But then when they fucking destroyed large parts of the economy, like, Tommy's gonna be bummed. So just like, who among us has not, for no fucking reason?
I mean, he's gonna have to sell that Upper West Side place. I know it.
And
he's
like,
gonna
that
be sad
sucks.
about
Like,
it.
that's a fucking sweet place, man. He loves that place. Like,
he's got a brick oven pizza up there.
it's
Pizza oven. It's really nice.
It's the Ghostbusters building. He loves Ghostbusters. Like, he had that entire duplex Ghostbuster themed. Like, he made it out to be like he had Zool's penthouse. Like, that was $7 million he invested in that. He paid Rick Moranis to live next to him. Like, it's gonna be a bummer.
I mean, like now all he has is that mansion that looks like the Munsters mansion up in Connecticut.
And that gets trite after a while, man. So like, I don't know. Just don't bring it up. That's all I'm saying.
Everybody who works for him is painted black and white. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's got a little person painted like Pugsley, and he doesn't use him very much, but he makes him stay there. It's terrible.
Cousin It is pure Angora hair. It's lovely.
He killed thousands of camels to make Cousin It, and then this kid from Hartford just has to wear it around all the time. That's all he's got now, man. So like, just go easy on. Randomly, I don't know if this jumped out to you at all, but Solano and Solario are talking to each other, and then he's talking about Antonio and how he did this on Bassanio's behalf. He says, and I think he only loves the world for him. And I was like, so wait, is Antonio in love with Bassanio? Because again, if you want to give Bill way too much credit, like why would you be an anti-Semitic douchebag? Because you are otherizing your self-hatred. Like you can't be who you are. And so in order to prove that you are like part of the dominant group, you just like lean in more than anyone else into otherizing someone. If everyone else is a little bit anti-Semitic,
interesting,
you totally steer into it. You want to pretend that like you would never be part of the out group, and you hate the part of yourself that's part of the out group. And so then when you experience somebody's part of an out group, you're the person that just like steers right into their fucking face. And you're just like, dude, fucking hate you and your fucking religion. If you were a man, this is what you'd do. It's one line, but it talks about how much he loves him and how he would only do the stupid thing because he loves him so much. And I was just like, you could pull it off if you wanted to. Like, and I love that these two morons don't see it when they say to each other. It's like, oh man, I think Antonio would only do it for him. He loves that guy. Cool dude. All right, wait a minute.
I didn't read that much into it, but the more now that you say it, that's really interesting.
I would love all these characters to be too dumb, like kind of like American Psycho-ish, where like they're too dumb to ever realize their deep-seated psychological needs. Like they're just
100%.
Just like trading business cards and competing on things, and the things they've repressed, the audience can see, but you know that they'll never be capable of it. Like,
right.
They're just morons with money.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, though, that's the function they serve, right? That's the,
yeah.
And I'm sure that we could probably open a restaurant called Solario and Solarn.
Two restaurants right next to each other, and just convince rich people that they're very different.
The menus are the same.
Solanio's the good one. Solanio, like, is the one you want a table at. Celerio is for your fucking assistant. Like, and just like at the Pizza Hut Taco Bell combo, it's the same kitchen in the back. Oh, just you haven't had the $70 chicken parm? You gotta get it. You gotta get the $70 chicken parm. Amazing. I got nothing else from.
I only had one sentence for scene 8. You opened my eyes on scene 8. I didn't think there was as much going on other than Antonio's ships were in peril. I was like my students all of a sudden, just like surface level.
Eskimos have like 100 words for snow. Entitled pricks are my Eskimo snow.
The different flavors of entitled pricks.
I'm just like, oh no, Celerio and Solanio. Those I know those two guys. All right. The only thing I've got for scene 9, which Jesus fucking Christ, scene 9, is just the fucking delightful stupidity of it. In that the Prince of Morocco picks gold, and he has to find a fucking human head and a scroll that he has to read. And this guy picks silver, and he opens it up, and he's like, "There's a picture of a dumbass." And and I don't even know what a picture of a dumbass is. But he just picks it up and announces, "This is a picture of a moron." And I love that, and just like setting up expectations. You're like, I bet this will be another great soliloquy, but there's the scroll here. He just picks up a picture and just like, "This is fucking dum-dum." I don't know.
At least Portia's dad had a sense of humor.
I like really stupid jokes.
It wasn't all skulls in the casket. This one was just a picture of Emo Phillips. Oh, and this is the scene where the rule finally comes out. Aragon says that I took this oath. I took three parts of this oath, which was 1, I'm not if I choose wrong, I'm not to marry anybody else. 2, I'm not supposed to tell anybody which casket I chose.
Oh, okay.
And 3, if I have to, whatever, when the verdict comes, if it's not in my favor, I got to get the fuck out or something like that.
No, I think that was exactly what he said.
But again, Aragon, he's Aragon, right? So which
is British for good guy. Like,
yeah. Isn't Aragon, isn't that in Spain?
I don't know. It reminds me of Aragorn in Lord of the Rings.
Aragorn, yeah.
And I just feel like in like minor, like Lord of the Rings adjacent things like Harry Potter or what's the name of the Prydain books with Black Cauldron, or like Land of the Witch in the Wardrobe, like Aslan, Aragorn, A-names, Arthur. That's just like
good guys.
Yeah, well, and again, that's why I love it. It's just like, it's a picture of a fucking dummy.
Well, I mean, Aragon is in Spain, and it's a section of Spain, which I'm assuming that's just like Morocco was the Prince of Morocco. I'm assuming this guy is from Spain. So like these guys aren't from around here; they're coming from all over the world. Aragon's kind of like a Elizabethan libertarian is what I'm getting from him. He's all about like, if only things were given to you by merit, and he's like, and he goes on and on, which to me makes him finding the picture of a dumbass even funnier.
All right. Thank you for that. I love this joke even more now. The idea of someone being like, well, as Ayn Rand stated,
only hard work and talent and dedication.
If I leverage Randian ethics, it's clear.
Hey, this is a picture of a dumbass.
This is a big picture of a kid in a propeller hat picking his nose.
What the fuck? and he does kind of leave in a huff too. He's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, I'm out of here.
I want to, like, I picture him like looking at it and then like turning it to the audience and just like Alfred P. Newman, like, what could you do to just be like, that's you. That's you fucking.
Such a great reveal.
I I love dumb as shit jokes in Shakespeare. I love that. I love Cupid's shaft. I love grab the dog. This is what I'm here for. I want to segue out of soliloquies into that donkey kicked that guy in the balls.
I like the fact that Portia's dad was like, in the lead casket, put a picture of my daughter. In the gold, a skull and a haunting poem. In the middle one, put a picture of my nephew?
I hate him.
What, the dummy? Yeah, dummy.
They'll get it. They'll get it. And just for months, people are painting pictures of his nephew like, stupider. Stupider.
No. You really got, like, you're giving him too much credit.
I feel like you're suggesting he eats his feces. I want him to be eating his feces. I want him to have a thought bubble that says, I love eating dookie. Like, you can have a lot of fun with just like her dad just being out of his fucking mind. Fucking Aragon has come across the world to do this. It's a picture of a fucking dummy.
That's it. He traveled a long time to open up this box and find a picture of a moron. I mean, it's the best payoff
in the play so far.
If I were to be directing this play, just like, you know, the one scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where there's those two guards outside of that castle, and they've got John Cleese in full.
That's a lot with the drumming running.
Yeah, and he keeps getting closer and closer. I would intersperse images of Aragon traveling throughout the entire beginning until it gets to this point where he opens up and goes, "What the fuck?"
This is a picture of me fucking my mother.
How did you even
How does that even make sense?
How did you know I was going to open this one? It's like it's like the most elaborate magic trick. It's like a Penn and Teller thing.
It's just like a middle finger on a spring just pops out. What? Wait, really?
I traveled. 4 people in my party died getting here.
I had a 70-line soliloquy before this. And this casket opens up, and a large boot just kicks me in the groin?
A fish came out of a bucket and spit in my face.
Like, I want the same energy as the Wheel of Fish from UHF. Just like, stupid!
You're so stupid. Oh boy.
Well, all right, so maybe this is a fucking comedy.
It might be.
Like, if you can nail the caustic, if you can like hate these people the way that like you hate the way you hate the preppies and like Better Off Dead or something, and you're just like, yeah, fucking Shylock, man. It sucks to be John Cusack. Like, just cast young John Cusack as Shylock and just a fucking daughter, man. Steal their money. This is bullshit.
Took my ducats.
Lancelot's played by Booger. Like,
Ah, Booger. Did you know Curtis Armstrong of Booger fame played Lucentio from Taming of the Shrew in an episode of Moonlighting? It once again proves that Shakespeare's iron grip on popular culture has us all by the nuts. Fat and Greasy Citizens is presented by the players Chuck and Gay. Theme music, A Robust Crew, by Darren Curtis. Next week, the 3rd act of Merchant of Venice. And for me, a shirt pant for Dennis. A shirt pant is a shirt that is also a pant, the further you go down the garment. It was very popular during my time period. Do you believe that? Bye!